Hey guys, how you doing? I've got Chris here tonight, and he is a ninja when it comes to Google. Most people get slapped around on Google a little bit, and there's the Google stupid tax. They got all kind of taxes over there at Google. There's all kind of different ways you actually get caught speeding on Google too. Chris's specialty is actually how to get people back onto Google who have now gotten kicked off, and that's kind of his secret sauce. And he's helped out tons of people doing this, and he's got tons of clients that are paying him small fortunes, if you look at it that way, just to be on the phone with him for his time for an hour. On top of that, he's also got clients that are making a ton of money because of his services and stuff. So Chris allowed us to actually help pick his brain a little bit tonight, so we can find out how he's monetizing the information he has come to know after reading through the Google Yellow Page book that's about this big. Literally, it's like, 2 or 3 inches thick. You had to read through, make sure you understand all the bylaws, and you became the guy on Google. I mean, how did you actually get to the point where people came to know you as being the guy that helps people get back onto Google? Like, what was the defining moment basically when you got started doing this?
Well, I've been doing pay-per-click advertising since 2002, and the suspension started around 2006 to 2008 in that range because of home-based businesses. Well, I had a few clients that advertised for home-based businesses that I helped them promote their business. Google started kicking sites off, and if they weren't going to stay on, they weren't going to keep paying me. So I had to figure out what I needed to do to get their site back on. And back when it started, all you had to do was buy another domain. You could forward this other domain to your suspended website, and voila, you were back on. So that's where it started. And I'm sure a lot of people who've ever dealt with a suspension now would love to go back to that time. But I would be on the phone with Google, talking to them, asking them, why is it suspended? What do we need to do? What do we need to change? And it started evolving, and I've noticed patterns and trends over the years. But as clients started getting kicked off, I had to keep them on. So that allowed me to put time and effort and energy into figuring it out. And then I realized that there's more people getting kicked off. So I started advertising for the service, and there was no one else doing it. It was just me. And as I became better at it, I realized businesses are in a bind. They're running profitably, and all of a sudden, it's just like the electric goes out. Well, what do? You call the electric company, do whatever it takes to make that happen. So I just saw it evolve, and I've kept learning and learning. And then I started to get back on Google. I would say probably around the 2009-ish, 2010, somewhere around that time. And so I made a standalone separate site service different from AdFishing, which is the agency side, because there was such a high demand for this. It just focused just on that. And then after we fix that, then we can talk about other services. But that's just to fix suspension. It does SEO and PPC, but I started with the AdWords suspensions.
So you kind of like every other entrepreneur out there, it just became almost something you kind of fell into, in the sense of like all of a sudden you just started spending a lot of time doing it. And instead of just, quitting or doing something new, like a lot of people do, you said, I'm going to actually roll up my sleeves and go to work. So I, commend you for that. What's been the biggest, I would say, there's no failure in business. There's only feedback. What's been the biggest feedback you've actually ever taken away as a business owner? I know you've been doing this, for a long time now at this point. What, about 15 years you've been on Google. So you've got to have some pretty crazy stories about whether it's learning something from yourself or it's one of your clients and something they actually did. And what did you do? How did you actually fix it?
I think one of the biggest feedback options or feedback I got from doing this was, when I was younger, I had a business partner who was also a very good friend. And I just didn't realize going into a partnership with someone, all of the risks you have and how hard it can be, especially if it's a friend. And we ended up, I had to end that relationship, but also ended the friendship. It was very hard to do. And I realized that I was very clouded because decisions you'll make about the business sometimes come in conflict with the friendship. So you're constantly battling that. And I found myself spending more time figuring out how to finesse a situation with a friend than running the business. I was spending more time doing that. So I'm not growing the business. I'm trying to figure out, how do I make my friend happy? How do I do this? And it just came down to it as we were splitting everything, and he wasn't doing his fair share of the work. And I had to end that relationship. It was very, very hard to do, and it took me a long time. I put it off. Every chance I got, I put it off. I found a way to do it till tomorrow, do it till tomorrow, do it till tomorrow. I went over about 6 months, and eventually I just realized, looking at the revenue coming in and the bills, I had to do that, or I just start doing something else to bring in revenue. So that was a learning experience. It's just, when you do that, it's like getting married to someone. So you really want to make sure there's always profit shares, pay people on commission. It's always try to pay, because it seems like a good deal. We're going to go into business. We don't have to pay this person. They get a percentage. They get ownership. But if you think about it, if you really grow the business, then that's going to come back and bite you in the butt if you don't really, really think about it. So that's one of the biggest learning experiences that I've had, is just really be selective with who you actually go into business with.
That's so true. I mean, I've witnessed that firsthand many times, and I find that if the values aren't aligned correctly, if this person's work ethic is really high and the other person's is not exactly even close to it, then there's going to be a rift. And it's one of those things, whether it's in a relationship in business, whether it's a marriage relationship or friendship, it comes into a time when there needs to be a conversation about whatever it is, and the longer it gets put off, then it becomes one of those things where it just kind of festers. Is that pretty much what was happening with you?
Yeah, and there's something else I wanted to add to that too that I learned. The person that I was in business with, he was a very, very good talker. He would talk you into anything. Somehow there were times clients would call, they would be mad at something that he did, and then it turns out at the end of the call, they're apologizing and wanting to get additional services. He just had that ability to do that, which I thought that was amazing. But then he also used that against me. So what I found is, anytime someone is a really good talker and everything just seems like it's just going to be a perfect fit, I have an alarm that goes off in my head now that says, wait a second, this seems too perfect. Let's make sure we get some actual results. Because the people that are really, really good at talking sometimes have the ability, not all people, but sometimes have the ability to talk their way out of the result they're supposed to get. There's always some exception, something you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So I've learned from that is just, when that happens, I have an alarm that goes off, and I really need to focus just on the results, because I'll get talked out of the results. And then what happens is the business doesn't grow, revenue doesn't come in, and then it's bad for both of us.
Yeah. Did you put an agreement in place at the time, or was it kind of like a handshake deal between you guys? How did you guys even start the business together?
Well, it was someone I've known for a long time. He started working for me. I was a lot younger, so I didn't really know. He was doing really well, and he said, hey, I would like some ownership. And being young, I said, that sounds fair. Why not? So I gave him some ownership. I didn't make him buy equity or anything. It was just, you're doing really well, which I shouldn't have done. If someone does really well, they're being paid for what they do. But it's a friend. I wanted to reward my friend and say, hey, you're doing well. Let's share in this. So that's how it came about. We had a very, very basic operating agreement. It's just pretty much a template, and there was nothing in there if there's disputes, if there's anything in there. So what actually happened was, I had to leave the business and start another business. I went to a lawyer who told me, if I'm a majority owner, I can just make him not stay in the business. Completely wrong. Completely bad advice that I paid about $200 to $250 an hour for. So what happened was, I just had to let him take the business over. Otherwise, if I'd have stayed in it, it would have been going to the lawyers and arguing it out, and who knows how much it would have cost. But I started another.
Won that game.
Yeah, I started another business, and almost all of the clients came with me, because I just gave them the option, which should tell you, in that case, why would they come with me and not stay with him? So it was very tough to do, but I learned a lot from that. And it's just really, it's who you go into business with is very important. If you can pay someone, pay them, and you're done with it. It's much easier.
What are some of the biggest things you're seeing right now out there I know you do a lot of YouTube marketing. You do a lot of pay-per-click marketing. You guys are working with people that are spending upwards of $300,000 a month in advertising with you. Yeah. What are some of the secrets you could share with some of the people that are listening to this?
Well, some of the secrets, if you're going to be advertising and you're going to be spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, if you're going to get to that level, it's a different skill set to manage that kind of money compared to managing $5,000 a month, $15,000 a month. You can have someone who's good at managing accounts that are $20,000 a month, and you give them an account that's $200,000 a month, and they could mess it up. So it's really, if you have that type of a budget, it's finding someone who's done it before, because with that kind of money, you don't want to take a risk. And in a mistake in an account that's spending $5,000 a month, a 10% mistake, $500. Now, an account that's spending $200,000 a month, 10% mistake is going to be $20,000. It's going to be a lot more. So as far as those large accounts, it's just really important to make sure you have someone that has the experience. Now, as far as trends or things that I've seen, is some of the most common mistakes would be the negative keyword. In Google, it's very simple. It's just if you use the broad match feature, and if you don't know what that is, it's just a way that if you pay for keywords on Google, that Google, you're giving them the option to kind of find any keywords that are relevant, and you're going to pay for those clicks. So I always say broad match equals bankrupt. If you remember that, that's the best thing you can do in Google is broad match equals bankrupt. You want to use what's called exact match, because exact match, you're going to pay for that exact keyword. Google is not designed to help you as the advertiser. I recently had someone I've been working with. They had Google set an account up for them, and this person was very, very new, and the account they set up was horrible. I've never seen Google set up a good account. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't have skilled people. It's just the person their job is to help you. It's not to be skilled at setting up an account for your business, to optimize your business, to make you a profit. Google makes their money off you getting clicks. Whether or not you get sales, they still get their money.
So with that being said, what are some of the clients that have actually come into you? I know you do some audits and stuff like that when you look at people's accounts. On average, what do you see they're able to help people change? So if somebody comes into you and they're spending $1 on ads and they're making $1.50, and then you come in and they start spending $1, like what do you see them get in return? And I know they're not spending $1, but I'm just using $1 as a reference point.
Yeah, well, the first thing that we do is we will do a mistake finder. So we'll look at their account and we'll find problems. Now, the mistake finder is something that I came up with. It's just a way to say, we're going to do a review of your account, find problems with it, and show it to you. Then you can implement those. But when someone comes to us, we'll just say they're spending $20,000 a month. On average, we're going to find about 10% of wasted ad spend. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower, depending on how the account's managed. But on average, it's about 10%. So if someone's spending $20,000 a month, we're going to find around $2,000 of wasted ad spend. That means broad match keywords. There's not proper use of negative keywords. We're going to see that targeting is not properly set up. You're local in one city, you're advertising in another city. We had clients that we worked with, we did some consulting for. They did water damage out of Georgia. They were paying $80 to $100 a click for leads in New York. And we asked them,
these clients, were they people that you got obviously afterwards and they came to you, but like where did they go in the first place? Like how would somebody know, is this a good company I'm actually working for? Because one of the most common things that you've shared with me is that, how are you guys different from the other 4 companies I tried to hire to get me more leads off of Google and just, I know this internet thing works, but I just don't know how to do it. So why should I trust you over the other people that I've, given my money to in the past and just gotten burned?
Yeah, that's very hard. If you're looking for pay-per-click companies, they all look the same. And it's very common. I get that question all the time. Someone calls me and says, I'm talking to 3 of your competitors and you. I don't see a difference. And the last 3 or 4 people I worked with all told me wonderful things, and then they didn't follow up. I didn't get a result, and I had lost more money with them than I did on my own. So that's very common. The best way to do that is check for references. So actually call people that have worked with them and then ask for their specific plan. What are they going to do to make you money that seems realistic? Don't ask for a fancy proposal, because you know what a fancy proposal is going to have? It's going to have their highlight reel. You take any athlete and you show their highlight reel, it's going to look amazing. Michael Jordan, look at all the game-winning shots he's got, but he actually missed 26 game-winning shots. We don't see those in the highlight reel, the ones he misses, but every company can show you their highlight reel. That's the best of the best of the best of the 1% that did amazing. But what's going to happen is, are you going to get that manager? So I would make sure that you know who's managing your account. talk to that person. What is their specific plan? What do they want to do? Because if they don't have a plan for what they're going to do, they're just going to take your money and they're going to do the basics. They're going to do best practices, and you might get a result, you might not, and then you're going to be on to the next company. So that's going to be the most important part, is just really understanding what is their plan. What are they going to do specifically for you? Does it make sense? Does it make sense?
And Chris, what's been your, you're very passionate about this, and you've been doing this, helping a lot of time, but what really drives you at at a deeper level to do what you're doing?
What I like about this is with the advertising, you have the idea to have a concept. You come up with an idea and you can get that idea out to millions of people. Now you'd start smaller, but if it can truly help people, there's no limit. You could reach the whole United States or a large portion of the United States very, very quickly if you could truly help people. And I think that's just an amazing tool that we have. We can have an idea and then we can put it on a landing page, and the following day have ads to it and get real world feedback. And when you can do that, there's just so much you can do. You can help people, but also the clients that come to me, I see them struggling with their business because they're not getting the proper leads, the proper sales. So we can help them to improve their account, so it's one less thing they have to worry about, because it's fun when you have clients you work with, you get along with, and you're making them a lot of money. It's a great environment to be in. And that's really what I like, is being able to meet a lot of interesting people with what I do, and just get to make friends all over the world, and I get to help them make money. So obviously then they have to like me because I'm helping them make money.
Yeah. One of my funny favorite stories you've actually shared with me, it's a little bit almost comical, is the one client you guys have, and it's all about helping women actually pick up guys, which I thought was actually pretty cool just in general. Yeah. And I mean, this guy is he's got over, I don't know, what was it, 400 or 500,000 fans on Facebook and stuff like that. And how many like the YouTube traffic you've actually been able to do, and the leads you've been able to produce for him, the numbers you share with me, I don't know if you can share with everybody else, but it was astronomical. It was really just amazing.
Yeah, I can't share the numbers, but we can just say it's getting a couple Super Bowl commercials every month.
Yeah, it's getting up there. So,
yes.
I mean, that was just, the thing is like the sky's the limit, just the same places that Geico can advertise, you're getting this person's like videos that are out there, and that's really the coolest thing about utilizing, Google, because it's everybody's using it. And I've seen, like, as people go, for those of you who've never clicked on an ad before, possibly on the internet, there's these ads on Google called AdWords, and you'll see it says ad next to them now when you're actually searching something. So when you click on that, the thing is like when somebody types in a specific product or service, they're typing in, I want to get this certain type of sneaker, right? I want to get the Michael Jordan sneaker or whatever it is. So that is a buyer, because that's something that's ready to actually buy and get that product. And that's one of the beautiful things about Google is, it brings those people right to you, and is there anything you could share with us as we, wrap up here, Chris, where you would be just another golden nugget that you could share, kind of like, what is it? Broad match equals broke, right? That was one big takeaway I got. Any other golden nuggets that somebody could actually, you could share with us, or what you could do with people?
Yeah, that was broad match equals broke, bankrupt. That's very important. That is the single biggest waste that we see in accounts, and it's not really publicized. Google doesn't really share that. You want to start with exact match because they would make way less money. Another nugget I could give is you want to make sure when you write an ad for your Google AdWords account, and that's going to be when someone searches what you just talked about, where it says sponsored link at the top or sponsored at the top. So if you look for Michael Jordan shoes, there's an ad. Think of it like this. You want your ad to be a window to your website. Now, if it's a window, someone can see through a window. They can see what's there. So that means if they look at that ad, they should be able to see what's going to be on the site. If they like what's in the ad, what should be on the site should match that ad. So that would make it a window. Now, if your ad says Michael Jordan shoes and you take them to a page that talks about jackets and hats, Well, that would be a bad window because they're going to look through that and think they're getting shoes, come to your site, but once they click, you have to pay. So at that point, you've paid. Now they come and they don't see shoes, so what do? They hit the back button, and that's going to lower your quality score because they're hitting the back button right away. You're going to pay for that click, so then you've wasted that. So if we make it a window so they can see it, and it's Michael Jordan shoes, and they come to the site and it's shoes, well, then they're more likely to buy. So as detailed as we can get. And it's okay. You want to make an ad that qualifies people. It's going to deter. The more expensive the click, the more you want to deter people. So if you're going to pay $50 for a click, $100 for a click, you want to make sure it's worth it. Think about it. For someone to click, come to your site, and you get 3 or 4 seconds of their attention, $100. You want to make very, very certain they know exactly what they're getting, because if they're not sure, well, that's your $100 you just lit on fire. And depending on your budget, how many times a day can you do that before you're going to have to stop and make an adjustment? So that's important with the ads. Just make sure your ad is a window to your site. One other tip I want to add to, when you're trying to figure out, what do I put in my ad? What do I put on my page? There's a website called SpyFu, SPYFU. That will allow you to see what competitors are doing. So you don't have to recreate everything. Sometimes it's hard to get started because you think, well, I got to come up with this amazing, perfect ad from the beginning, this amazing, perfect landing page. It's going to take a year to make it just how I want it. And then a year's gone by and it just drags on and drags on. You can look and see what competitors are doing, how long they've been doing it, if they make changes. So you can have an idea of what's working for them. And if you see it's working for them, use your brain and say, why is it working for them? And what can I do? Are they doing something I can't do? If not, I can take an angle and I can advertise for that too. So it's a way you can research and kind of spy on your competition and see what they're doing, so you can have an idea how you want to get started. But there's really, you got to get in and do it. Start off small. But again, if you have broad match equals bankrupt and your ads are a window to your site, and you've looked at the competition, so you know you have a good idea that, hey, these guys are getting offer XYZ to convert, I could probably do something similar, you should be in good shape. Now, there's other little details with AdWords. There's like call extensions, calls, all these other details. But the details aren't going to cause an account to completely fail or completely be successful. It's the core of it. And if you focus on the core, when you start building up, then you just hire someone to come in and take care of the details. But you as the owner should understand that enough for the core, because if it's not working well, you want to make sure you can step in and make the adjustments, because ultimately you're responsible. If you're the owner, if it does well, you're responsible if it does bad, because it's your money.
Yeah, those are 3 just golden nuggets that I know over the years I've seen people make the mistake. I mean, I've definitely learned my lessons on the Google side of things too. Mm-hmm. And it is a Google tax that they do, and they're not gonna tell you this stuff, guys. So, if that's the case, and one of the biggest things you just said there about, you can actually look online and see what ads that your consumers, or I'm sorry, your other people that are out there that are your competitors are advertising. You can actually see their actual ads. So like Chris said, we'll put it in the show notes, the website SpyFu, and that website allows you to see that. And there's some other websites like Similar Web's another one. There's some free ones out there too that you can look at, and there's some paid ones that have other information. And that stuff is gold, absolute gold, because if somebody's been running this ad for 3 years running, and they've been spent a lot of money on it, you think it works, right? It might not be the prettiest thing out there, but you know what? It doesn't matter. It's what's working, what's connecting with the audience. And you never want to copy what somebody's actually doing that's out there, but you can definitely model maybe what their ad looks like a little bit. Maybe you can come up with some copy that's similar in nature, but you don't want to go too far, off the reservation either. So that's the other side of it too, So Chris, I really appreciate you sharing that. There's one last thing is I know that you are a ninja when it comes to looking at people. So a lot of times, just like when you're driving down the highway, you might be speeding and not even actually realizing. And unfortunately, there's guys out there, whether it's this darn little, photo police that nail you on the side of the road, or it's a cop with a laser, and you get pulled over for speeding, or you get that thing in your mail, and they're like, damn it. Well, in this case on Google, you get your account shut down. So if you were advertising and that's how you were making your bread and butter using Google, at this point, you're basically stuck and there's nothing you can do at that point. until you get on the phone with Chris. So Chris, could you share just one last little tidbit about, how, one of the biggest things that people get their account shut down on Google. And at that point, I know you've got some other information like a little report or something like that, where people can kind of go through and evaluate themselves to realize if they're speeding or not, because they honestly probably don't even know.
Yeah. So one of the most common reasons people get suspended from Google is going to be for claims, and it's going to be misleading claims. The industry that I see it the most in is going to be the diet and weight loss industry. So what happens is someone says, hey, I've got this pill. You take my pill, you're going to lose 10 pounds in 10 days. Don't have to exercise, don't have to eat healthy, just take this magical pill. Well, in all reality, that you're not going to lose weight by taking a pill without diet and exercise. So this pill can
don't let them know.
Yeah. So this pill is not going to make that happen for you. So what Google's going to say is if you're going to make a claim and it's going to be not true or could not be true for 1 out of 100 people. So if 100 people take this and 1 out of 100 it's not true for, could not be true for, then that could be a misleading claim. Now it's a finite claim. So if you say lose 10 pounds, if you said this pill can help you lose weight, that's not a finite claim. So you're allowed to say it can help you lose weight. That's the difference, is Google does not allow the finite claim for diet pills. The same with if you have a business or you teach people how to make money. You can't tell someone, if you do my product or you take my course, you're going to learn how to make $20,000 a month, 100, whatever it may be. That's why suspension started with the home-based business, because they'd say, join my business, you're going to make $100,000 a month, you're going to work 4 hours a month. Well, that sounds amazing. But in all reality, what are they going to do to generate that kind of money, $25,000 an hour? So it's not true. So what happened was Google says you can't say that because it's very, very misleading. And that's what Google tries to do. They try to safeguard what people see from those claims because people believe it. They'll see it, they'll believe it, they buy it, and then they get swindled out of their money. That's very, very common. That's why suspension started with the home-based business industry, and they kept progressing as other industries came about where people were having claims. So it's really just, if 1 out of 100 it could not be true for, then they can suspend it. Now, you can have disclaimers. There's ways you can make it so it's very obvious, but that's going to be the biggest reason people get suspended. So if you have a product, a service, and you've got a claim, especially if it's with weight loss or financial gain, those are the two biggest ones. They're ruthless. They catch you doing it. If you're lucky if they'll give you a website suspension, not an account suspension. You're lucky if you get that. Normally it's an account suspension, and then you try to call in, and you have to enter in a customer ID before you can get a hold of someone. Well, they block your customer ID when you type it in when you call in. So they just say, we're sorry, you're suspended, beat it. And then What do you do?
So these people are calling into Google, and there's an automated system that funnels them to a voicemail that says, sorry, you're suspended, and then just hangs up on them.
Yeah, it just says you violate our policies. We just don't want to do business with you. There's Yahoo, there's Amazon, go elsewhere. So what happens in that case, there's no one you can talk to. So you can email our support, and we'll get back to you when it's convenient. And sometimes they don't block your number, but it's very common where they will do that. So you're pretty much in a very bad scenario. And what they do is their mentality is their policies say that 1 out of 100, it should be clear to them. That person shouldn't get ripped off. Your business should align with that. It just should magically align with that. And if it doesn't just magically align with that, then oh well. So I work with businesses and I help them to understand those policies. If you have a service where you help people make money, you say, the average person that works with me makes $20,000 a month taking my course. Well, we can't say that, but we can say the average person who works with me has seen a significant increase in their income. So we have to make changes. Essentially, I always tell people before I work with them, your conversion rates will drop, but it's better than 0% because we have to tone down your claims, make them not finite numbers, and that's always going to lower conversions. But again, 0 conversion rate is much worse than dropping a little bit because you're still on Google, you're just not converting what you used to.
Yeah, because if you get caught for speeding, then you go to that voicemail system. Sorry, go somewhere else. So you can go back and get your license right away, and unless you got Chris. So he's the unquote Google lawyer guy that's going to get you off, suspension.
Yep.
It's, and this, we're not claiming any legal stuff right here either, guys. I've seen even in, this is something interesting, even with like the claims that your clients actually make, even I've seen that be an issue. So if a client gives a testimonial for you, you have to actually even be careful to make sure they're not making claims in the video like, oh, I lost such and such weight, or I made so much money from doing such and such thing, because that in the fine print is actually violating it because you're using it on the website. You know, that's
Yeah.
I've heard that as well. So
Yeah, if you have testimonials, you have to have a disclaimer. And you have to, and this is very, very important, it's specific. You have to have a disclaimer under each and every testimonial, and that disclaimer text cannot be the smallest font size or lightest color on the page. Because what do you want to do? You want to make the font size that big where you can't see it, and make it a slightly off-white so you can't read it. Well, Google won't allow that. So whatever is the normal font size and color on your page, you have to make it the same. They can kick you off for that. I'll give an example. I had a client a while back, they're still up right now. They had a diet pill, and they had diet shakes. We went through, got their site fixed. I told them you can't make any changes to your site. Well, they left the comment features on their blog, so people could just make comments, and they were unedited. Comment would come on. One of their competitors wrote a comment, "This is the greatest product ever. I lost 10, 15 pounds." And they put a finite claim. Then the next day, guess what they did? They called Google and said, look, they've got a claim. They're making claims. This is misleading. Then the day after, they got suspended. And then we saw that, and this was one I was able to fix very quickly because we knew they had comments on there. We took it off, resubmitted it, they got back on. But again, that was specifically for that claim, and we got them back on right away. But if it happens over and over, Google may not be so nice. They may not let that happen. But that's just an example of what can happen.
Yeah, so that's some gold nuggets there. So people basically, you need to make sure what you control that goes on your website as well, because you could have a competitor out there that's trying to, do something that's, I'll just put negative, and that leaves a pretty, and had Chris, you not been actually working with this person, they might not ever even figured it out, So if that's the case, guys, if you're looking to get unblocked on Google, or you're looking to get back onto Google, I can't recommend what Chris has actually done for people. He's a genius at what he does. One of the things I would say as well, Chris, is how have you taken, because this is, you didn't go to college for this, you didn't go to high school for this. I mean, like, you basically, like, if somebody wanted to, your background a little bit, I mean, came from like where and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So it's not like this wasn't like what you set off, like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life kind of thing. But all of a sudden it just kind of like happened. So I thought that was pretty interesting about how you even got started doing this in the first place. I just wanted to kind of share that with you.
Yeah. I was born this way. I just came out of the womb knowing how to fix Google suspensions. The way it came about, I started doing web design in high school, got into doing the advertising at the beginning of college. And if there's a problem that arises in business, you have to solve your own problems. If you don't solve your own problems, then they get bigger and bigger, and they can put you out of business. So I just take the attitude, if it's a problem, I'm going to figure it out. I'll ask for help. I'll make phone calls. It's just being persistent. I can't tell you how many times I was on the phone with Google, call in. Hey, my client's been suspended. What can we do? I get someone on the phone who's not very good. Hang up. Call in again. There are times I call Google 10, 15 times a day, just cycle through people. I had a list of names, and I knew certain names, if I got them, they're going to be a zero help. So I just, hang up, call back again. It was just being persistent because my clients had a problem. And the reason that was my problem is because they were paying me, and then they were going to stop paying me if I couldn't fix that. Even though Google suspended them, it's not my fault, but they're going to stop paying me. So I had to figure out, what do we need to do? So it's just you try everything. You try everything you can. You call in, you make changes, you do just everything you can think of, you try until you figure it out. And there have been cases where there's accounts that just can't get back up. If you have so many violations in the past, Google they choose not to work with you. That can't be fixed. If you owe Google money, people will call me and they'll say, oh yeah, I used those coupon codes. I opened up 15 accounts so I could get about $1,500 with free advertising. And I go, I'm not going to be able to help you. Or I've got an extreme case. I had a client I worked with. He was on invoicing. he owed Google $3.7 million and skipped out on the bill. The way I found this out, because he opened new accounts. They didn't tell me this. I got him up for about, I think, 3 to 4 months. They got kicked off. After about a month of just why they're compliant, why they kicked off, I heard my Google rep I was working with said, we found another account and they owe Google $3.7 million. And then I was like, that's interesting. Call the client. And they were kind of getting frustrated with me. They say, we're paying you a lot of money. Why aren't we on Google? I go, do you guys know anything about a $3.7 million bill? And it got quiet. And then he goes,
real quiet.
He goes, yeah, we kind of got in a little over our heads, so we just left that.
About that tab at the bar, we just had a little too much last night. We just forgot about it and walked out and skipped down the check.
So essentially, Google linked them together, and it was turned over to collections. There was nothing I could do for them at that point. It got too far out of control. But I've seen all the types of suspensions. I mean, I was very persistent. I called in on that one 40, 50 times. It's not accepting no. When someone says no, then you find another way around, It's when you call into Google, I think they train their representatives to give you an answer without giving you an answer. So I would literally have calls with them where I would have to rephrase my question, why the account was suspended, what I could do 10, 15, 20 times. They give me a generic answer. I rephrase my question until eventually some way I rephrased it clicks with that person, or they do something and then it works, or I call back in and do it again. Because if you call in, you can get lucky and you can find someone who's very, very knowledgeable who can help you. It's the roll of the dice. Just like anywhere you go. You can go to a restaurant, you get a server they're going to be fired the next day. They're really bad, give you poor service, or someone who's excellent. They do magic tricks and they just really go out of their way to give you a great experience. It's the same when you call in and you talk to someone at Google. There's just a range of employees, knowledge that they have. But one thing to always remember, if you get suspended and you call in, I've yet to see a Google rep that knows everything. So they will give you advice, but it's not always going to be accurate advice. And this is the most frustrating part and the most just like deflating part for an advertiser. Google only has to find one suspension point and they can suspend your site. That's a term I came up with, just called suspension point.
How many suspension points are out there you've seen, Chris?
It depends if you have claims. So a claim could be a suspension point. Not having proper contact information could be a suspension point. So we'll just say your account has 10 suspension points, 10. Well, Google only has to find one. When they find one, they can leave your site suspended and move on to the next. In the year 2015, they suspended or disapproved about 720 million ads. They don't have the time to list all 10 suspension points or all 5 suspension points. So this is what happens. Typically, you as the advertiser, you get kicked off of Google. You are in a frantic range. You call in. You do get through. They didn't block your number. And then the person you talk to on the phone looks at the notes. Well, if that person – it's called an editor who actually reviews your account and makes the final decision. They're based out of India. If that person did leave notes, they're going to leave the notes on that one suspension point they found. So guess what happens? That person you talk to, they tell you what to do, and everything is great, and it's a big party because you're going to get back on when you fix that one suspension point. You're ready to pop the champagne, and you submit to Google, and you're still suspended. And then they go in the notes, and then, there's something else. But each time this happens, it takes about a week to a week and a half. Well, you do that 3, 4 times, 5 times. A couple months goes by, and it just do this. How deflating and disheartening is that? Over and over and over, because they don't give you the whole picture and they just don't have the time to do it. And the person on the phone they don't know. The person who's actually doing the review doesn't have the time to do it. So it kind of puts you in a bad situation. There's no way to know it unless you just have the experience doing it, because there's not a good feedback system for it. So that's common. So when you call in, I always recommend call in 3 times. And if you're brand new, I say call in 4 or 5 times. You're going to get very different answers. You're going to be surprised. It's the same number, the same company, the same everything, just different person, and you're going to get very different answers. Try it out and see if it works for you.
No, I absolutely. And I've been there and done that. I mean, it's not just Google guys. It's a lot of companies out there. And I think the biggest takeaway from what Chris was just saying is just be persistent and don't take no for an answer. Now, Chris, I know you're not going to make a claim here or something like that, but the biggest thing I've seen in business is until you can actually pay for advertising and bring the revenue back in, you don't have a business, and I find that to be the big thing about having a Google or any time of paid advertising is you really want to track those numbers. What would you say is on average the amount somebody would spend? Let's say they spend like $1,000 for pay-per-click ads in a month, and what should be possibly like a good return? And I know it's going to vary per industry and all that kind of stuff. Because one of the other things too I've seen is people will get people to become customers and they don't take care of their customers and keep them for the lifetime with them. So that's a whole different story behind that. But I don't know, what would you say was possibly some good numbers to kind of throw out there, maybe different industries or whatnot, to give people an idea what they should be looking at? Because I think a lot of times people go in with this idea too of like, oh, I've got this great product, it should just sell automatically, and it's one of those things where you can have the best product in the world, but if the product is not something your market wants to buy, or the message is not matching, what the product, is, then you're not going to sell it. So, I mean, that's why, that's why advertising is so important, is to really reaching that person that you want to reach. And I know that's one of the things you kind of focus in on. So what would you say, I don't know, Chris, like some numbers and stuff like that would be good. If I was coming to you as a consumer, and I'm like, man, I want to hire Chris, and I'm kind of nervous. I've never spent a lot of money on advertising before. $1,000 sounds like a lot to me, or $10,000 sounds like a lot to me. Whatever it is, what's the type of conversation you'd actually have with that person?
Well, what I would want to figure out, I always want to look at the simple math. Does the simple math work? And by the simple math, what I want to ask is, what is one customer worth to you? Revenue and profit. Now, as far as if you spend $1,000, what should you get back? Well, you want to be not getting back $1,000. You want to be getting back 2, 3, 4,000. Now, obviously, you want to spend 1,000 and get $1 million back, or $1 billion, however much you can get back. But you just want to make sure that the margins work for you. If you're in business and you say, I need to make $20,000 a month profit, and you're selling a product that doesn't allow the simple math to make that happen, then you need to make a real evaluation, decide if you want to do that. So many times whenever I hear people talk about numbers and money, it's like the simple math doesn't work. You have to, like, for example, if you sell private jets, well, what does your return need to be, or what percentage? What do your margins need to be? You can be at a 1% profit margin on that, and you'll still be huge. Now, let's say you sell just something, hangers on Amazon. I just heard a story about someone selling these velvet hangers for $30 for a packet of them. They buy them for like $10, making a big profit. But if you sell that, your margins have to be higher. So it really comes down to, are you selling a high ticket item? Are you selling or the high ticket item, but one or very few of them because it's longer for a sale? Are you selling a low ticket item? There's a lot more. And then you look at the residual. So there's all types of businesses. It's really just going to come down to the simple math. If there's residual, what do you make per month? So if you're going to make $50 per month off a client, the average client's going to stay with you for 12 months. Well, that's going to be $600. Can you pay $100 for that? If they stay with you for a month, you're going to lose $50. So it's really understanding that and work that out. A lot of people want to skip over that. My idea is great. I'm going to put it on Google, and my bank account's going to be full, and then I'm going to go spend it, and it's going to be full again. It's going to be great, and I'm not going to have to worry about money because my product is the best. That's what a thought can run through your mind about that, but it's really, you can look at a cost per click. So you can get averages. So what is the cost per click? How many clicks do I think I need to get a lead or to get a sale? So if we want to do conservative, whenever we work with someone, we'll do conservative estimates. So we're going to estimate you're going to convert, if it's sales, at a 1%. If it's leads, a 5%. Now, you can be at a 10, 20, 30%, but I don't want to go into a business relationship with someone where we're estimating for it to work. They have to convert it at 30% for leads on a new site. Because chances are it's not going to happen. It takes time to get to a 30%. That's very high. So we say 5% conversion. We very dramatically underestimate what the conversion rate would be, so we have a lot of room to work. And if the simple math doesn't work there, then we figure out why. Do we need to raise the price, do something else? And look at the competitors. If you got competitors that are doing it, well, what are they doing to make the simple math work? Are they just idiots and it's a tax write-off for them because you're going against, we'll just say Target, and Target just spends money like crazy for a certain category? that's something to look at too. But that's really what it comes down to is it's how much money do you want to make it worth your time? If you want to make $3,000 a month and you're happy, well, that's fine. If you want to make $1 million a month, the math is there. It's just, do you look at it, and do you actually take a real look at it and say, does this work? And have what I do is myself, I will look at it. My pay-per-click manager will look at it, and I want the client to look at it. And I want us all to come in an agreement that this seems like it's going to make sense. If anyone has an objection, let's get out now before we spend your money. Because once you spend your money, it's gone. So as far as a return, if someone spends $1,000, what should they get back? They should shoot for $2,000. I mean, that would be a good number to shoot for if you can double your money. If you get a
I was in a conference, gosh, it's going back to 2000 and I think 7, 8, 9, something like that. And there was a radio person actually there, and he sold radio advertising. He worked for radio a long, long time. And one of the biggest takeaways, he said, guys, if you can come to me and you said that, on a small level, you're getting a 1 to 2 return back on your money, basically from radio advertising. He's like, then we can go ahead and run it national. And get you even like a higher return after that. So I thought that was actually really insightful. And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, yeah, I would trade $1 for $2 all day long.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's really what it comes down to. So Chris, I just wanted to thank you again for sharing all these gold nuggets. We just run out of time right now, but what's the best way? And I know you had some cool stuff to share with the audience so they can get to know you a little bit better, and you had some cool like tips and tricks. I know that we could talk for hours on just all the stuff. But again, what's the best way for somebody to contact you, as well as I know you had some cool stuff to share with the audience.
Yeah, I'll give my contact information. I wanted to add one more tip. What we just talked about, if you spend $1,000 and you get $2,000, and you just gave an example of a guy doing the radio ads, you do local, we'll take it nationwide and we'll do the same. I've seen from my experience with Google accounts, if you start off and you're spending $1,000, you make $2,000, spending $2,000, make $4,000. Every time you increase it, it doesn't always stay proportionate, especially when you get up there to the higher dollar amounts when you're spending a lot more money. It's something weird happens where you have to have experience to know why it doesn't do that, because there's all these different cases that come up. But I've just seen if you do really well and you just simply throw, because I've seen clients do it, they just say, we're doing good at 10,000. Let's make it 20,000. And all of a sudden their margins start going down. The revenue starts going down because it's not getting the same returns. So that's just something, just be careful of it. Now you may get lucky, it may happen, but just be aware of that as you spend more money. Watch it very, very closely, because it's not always going to be proportionate. Because if you spend 1, make 2, that doesn't mean if the next month you spend 100,000, you're going to make 200,000. It's going to be a big difference. So just a little warning on that. So now you asked about my contact information. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know you had some information you wanted to share with everybody along the lines where they can get more information to learn, to make sure they don't get caught speeding.
Yeah. Okay. So my website is getbackongoogle.com. If you get kicked off, just what you want to do, get back on Google, throw the .com at the end. My contact information's on there. There's phone numbers, forms, so you can feel free to reach me. And what I'll do, if someone comes to me and they're suspended, I normally charge $1,000 to review their account. That's just to review it. Then if I fix it, I charge a lot more depending on what they have to do, but I do guarantee that. It's typically around $20,000 going up from there. But what I'll do for this interview, if someone mentions this, I'll do the $1,000 review. I'll do that at no cost because they saw this, since I like Daryl and I like his listeners. So if you contact me, just mention this. Again, I'll do that at no cost. Do the in-depth review. What I do is I look at all your ads, all your keywords, all the deleted ads you have that you thought don't count, all the landing pages that you have, calling to Google. So it takes me a little bit of time and research to figure that out, and then say, okay, you can or cannot get back on. So that's my gift to your listeners.
Oh, that's a huge gift, guys. And you guys just got away with that's a big one. So Chris, again, I think the 3 gold nuggets you had there, and then another 3 gold nuggets right after that. So guys, I mean, this guy has poured his heart out. I just want to thank Chris for coming on today, and I look forward to what you have in the future, Chris. I know you're doing some awesome stuff, and I will see you around the block, brother.
All right. Thank you, Dale.